Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You, the only comedy show on Friday nights which isn't an American sitcom. In the news this week, in Hollywood, there's strong competition in the lead role for the Bernie Clifton story. In Durham, there are suspicions that Myra Hindley may have already been allowed out to do some community service. And at a hotel in Guadalajara, there's embarrassment as the Summit on World Poverty is double booked with the local rugby club. On Ian Hislop's team is a comedy actress who made her name in Red Dwarf playing a computer, a part she prepared for by spending 6 months sitting in the window at Dixon's, Hattie Hayridge. And with Paul Merton tonight, an actor who, thanks to Alf Garnett, is known as the West Ham supporting bigoted loudmouth, unlike in real life, of course, as he supports Spurs, Warren Mitchell. Round one is how the trouble normally starts. Paul and Warren, it's still dragging on.
Oh, this is Tessa, what's her name? There's some people having a cigarette, some boys. Planet Hollywood, who are going to donate. Tony, this is quick. This is Tony Blair, Tony Banks. What's this? Is so quick. What's this? A year in 15 seconds?
So Tony
it's
Blair.
to do with raising the age. I mean, 8-year-old kids who want fags now have to send an 18-year-old to buy it for them, whereas they could send a 16-year-old.
I think they're actually going to give them ID cards, is the idea, just to prove.
Buy fags?
Yeah. No, not to buy fags. Any idea how much under 16s spend on fags every year?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Millions.
It's a frightening figure.
£100 million under 16-year-olds.
It could have been round number.
Well, they like to be precise about these things.
How did they ever find out? Because you can imagine them standing there in every little corner shop.
Counting them.
Counting them. How old are you? I'm only 15 and a half.
How many cigarettes do you buy?
And how much do you spend a year?
And they've got a person in every single shop all over the country. And it comes out to be exactly 100 million. I reckon they knocked off early and said, I'll say 100 million. They won't. I bet that's what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
I gave up smoking 2 weeks ago.
So we gather.
Yes. I gave up smoking 20 years ago. I had a very serious illness in Australia. I was lying there, paralysed from the waist down. And I looked up at the ceiling and I said, I don't believe in God, but if there's anybody up there, if you let me walk again, I promise I'll never smoke another fag, but I might have the odd joint if my kids get me some stuff. And as I did walk again...
Not one of the more traditional prayers, but...
The problem is, to quote an old friend of mine from Newham, I mean, if you was to stay on the smoking, you might line up for a bit of compensation. I mean, they're paying out millions, these American tobacco companies, so you're bloody daft to give it up now.
Yes, it's the Labour's smoking problem, and Tessa Jowell's announcement that the government plans to raise the age limit for cigarette sales. So although at 16 teenagers are old enough to have sex, they won't be old enough to have a cigarette afterwards. Ian and Hattie?
Oh, it's Viscount, no, it's Earl Spencer, and that's his lady wife.
That's right, Ian.
That's Altrop, pronounced bastard.
You don't like him, do you?
His matey got his comeuppance, finally, after his eloquent sermon in Westminster Abbey on family values. We found out why he's so keen on a privacy law, because like most people who are keen on privacy laws, they have rather a lot to be private about. It's very interesting. He decided that the other Charles, Charles Windsor, was an unsuitable parent because he'd been married to a woman with an eating disorder and been unfaithful to her. Whereas he, having been married to a woman with an eating disorder and been unfaithful to her, was a perfect guardian for the young princess. She's gone to court and said, look, you had 12 other women while I was in this clinic. There was one of them there, someone Van der Slapper. One of the South African models.
One of the Dutch Van der Slappers.
One of the Dutch Van der
It was 12 women while his wife was in clinic. Were they all in the waiting room at one time? Extraordinary.
This is according to his wife, I should
see.
point out.
Why is it that she wants to come here for the court case and he wants to do it in South Africa? I mean,
Because South African law, because they're such an advanced country, tends to pay women very little in divorce settlements, where in this country, you get a stack. And she wants to come over here, unsurprisingly, to get a stack.
Or a fair half.
Or a fair half.
You could look at it the other way.
Or the lot, for my money.
Oh, your money as well.
And how much would the lot be? Because you know what Althorp House is worth.
It's
Was he an estate agent then?
I've got to have a day job. Worth 100 million.
100 million pounds.
100 million, see, somebody's made it up again. They thought, we better find out how much it's worth. They're driving along, it's a long way. Let's go to the pub, have a pint. 100 million, yeah that'll do.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. This is Earl Spencer's divorce hearing in South Africa. Earl Spencer's case is that because of the nature of Victoria Spencer's alcoholism, she would be likely to squander a lump sum divorce settlement of £3.7 million. Mind you, it'd be a bloody good night out there, wouldn't it? Despite her death and promises to the contrary, Earl Spencer's sister still manages to command front-page coverage, as proved this week by the Daily Star, who exclusively revealed that the day before the funeral, Diana's image was quite clearly visible in the clouds. The Star said that they delayed publication for 10 weeks to avoid ridicule. Paul and Warren, your winter collection.
Apples.
What the strange patterns on them.
Yes. Ipswich Town Football Club.
We do read well.
We do, don't
Yes.
we? That's a horse. Look, that's a very, very big biscuit, and there's and there he is walking around.
Yes, with his...
Yeah. Did you come out with an answer there, or was it just a list
or
of
did you lose
objects?
concentration?
I may have
You'll have to
fallen
watch the
asleep
show go out and find out.
I think I seem to remember some connection with Ipswich Town Football Club, that their car park
Car park, yeah.
is owned. It's owned by the nation. And I think those apples, it's probably something to do with the fact that we only get these rotten French golden delicious instead of our own lovely Cox's orange pippins.
Is that a racist comment at all?
Yes.
Right. So what are some of the other things that you saw there?
That's
and what does
Newton's
it all
apple
mean?
tree. It's not French, that's an English apple tree. That's the tree that the apple fell off. And Newton thought, wow.
I could make cider.
Yes. The nation owns lots of stuff they're going to flog off.
Yes, and what was the you saw a combine harvester and a horse? And
Horses that rear up on their hind legs and paw the air.
They can be castrated by combine harvesters. Not a good thing for a horse to rear up in front of a combine harvester.
No. It's in fact the national stud that the Home Office owns.
Right, so what, is this the Labour Party?
Tom Jones?
Yes, this is the government's inventory listing all their known assets. The idea is to allow government departments to dispose of things that are no longer needed, like copies of the Labour manifesto. And finally, Ian and Hattie.
Charlie Blair. Oh, Humphrey. Oh, it's sweet. Humphrey's X-ray with his diseased kidneys, and there's Humphrey.
Dinner.
Oh,
He's being banned from fishing, Humphrey.
yes. The Spanish got there first or something. I don't know what it was. Oh, yeah. Humphrey, the Downing Street cat. They hadn't seen him for a while, and people wondered where he was. And Alan Clark started up this thing, trying to find out where he was. I don't know, on the lookout for more pussy, I guess.
Alan Clark said Shuri had murdered him.
Yes, had him put down. Been spin-doctored.
Teddy Taylor was the other one who's come out saying that...
The Tories are quite desperate, aren't they? The only thing they can come up with, they've killed a cat.
And what's been the official line from Downing Street?
He's gone to the suburbs.
He's going to retire.
Yeah, for
And they
government.
needed a new cat. A new look, new cat. New look, new cat.
Siamese
cat.
cat. It's like a bit classy.
Yeah,
Not
British
so
cat,
scruffy,
swinging
moggy.
modern cat.
Yeah.
None of this trad cat, silly old cat.
Yeah.
And then they went round shouting, "Moggy, moggy, moggy, out, out, out."
They were going to get a new cat, but they put it. They studied it, and they thought, no, it's actually, if we get a new cat, it's actually going to cost 100 million.
This is the main story of the week, the disappearance of Humphrey the cat from Downing Street. MP Alan Clark led the campaign to track Humphrey down, saying, "Humphrey is now a missing person. I suspect he has been shot whilst trying to escape. What is Amnesty International doing about this?" Adding, "And another crate of Chablis while you're at it, waiter." Alan Clark said Humphrey has the same symbolic importance to the nation as the ravens at the Tower of London and the apes on the Rock of Gibraltar. So none whatsoever then. So at the end of that round, we can see that both teams are rapidly approaching William Hague's popularity rating, each having 4 points. Before the hidden shallows of round 2, the familiar puddle that is our caption competition, Ian and Hattie have this to excite them. Paul and Warren, this. And we'll be back to collect their thoughts once they've done the same. Round 2 this week dumps us in the senseless wastes of tabloid headlines, 2 instances of editorial gibberish, Paul and Warren. Jacques' Tree Lovers.
We both did extraordinary vowel sounds there,
Yeah.
but in perfect harmony.
Jacques.
Yeah.
Happy breakfast, Jacques. It is the arbors. They are throwing down the leaves. Yes, onto the railway. It is not possible for the train to roll on the railway. So, they are suggesting the cutting down the trees.
And who are these French people that I presume you're referring to?
It's a man in charge of rail track, isn't it? Mm-hmm. We've appointed a Frenchman to run rail track.
Connex.
Who is this?
Connex.
It's true.
This is the bloke Jack Hughes.
And Monsieur Hurel is his name. Hurel. What did Teddy Taylor have to say about this interfering Frenchman?
What I said was in a dirty Scottish accent like that. You don't want to have dirty, froggy ways over here, he said. That's what he said.
You're treating the show as an audition, really, aren't
We had Teddy Taylor on, he wasn't Scottish.
you? Yes, he is.
He was a Bob Marley fan, that's all I remember about him.
Really? Well, he couldn't have been Scottish then, could he?
No. In what way was he not Scottish?
I don't know, he didn't sound very Scottish to me.
Apart from having a Scottish accent, you mean?
It's like you.
Not really, no.
Why are you not really like Teddy Taylor?
Because he's Scottish.
Then what's your point, Ian?
I was under the impression that Angus Deaton was Scottish.
Half Scottish.
Oh, I see, right.
The Angus bit.
Is it the Angus bit that's Scottish?
Oddly, yes, yes. But having been brought up in Surrey, I don't have a Scottish accent, unlike Teddy Taylor, which is, I think, where we came in. So, this is Monsieur Antoine Hurel, who declared this week that if Britain wanted to end the problem of leaves on the line, we should chop all our trees down. Although, given the level of competence of rail operators, trains would then be cancelled due to trees on the line.
Oh, what on the line?
Trees.
The old Scottish accent coming through there. That's a golf course, isn't it? Trees?
Trains, yeah. Where were we? Oh, yes. Unfortunately, Monsieur Hurel fails to understand that we have a deep love of trees in this country, and only chop them down in...
Chop them down. It's all going a bit bad, isn't it? Are they your own teeth, or you break them in for a friend?
Take it a little slower,
Okay.
and a little more deliverable.
Any casting directors in?
A spokesman for Monsieur Hurel's
Are we
company...
still carrying on, are we?
Yeah, we're carrying on like this.
You don't feel shamed into going home or anything like that?
Not yet.
What does it take? Go on then.
Okay, a spokesman...
Go.
16 of
In your
it.
own time.
They're all we got time for tonight. Ian and Hattie, your single entendre. Girls on top.
Ooh, this is about girls being cleverer than boys when they're taught on their own, and when they're not taught with boys, when they're not going to boys in the rest of the class and writing, oh, I love him, on my pencil case. Not my pencil case, on their pencil case.
Is that what girls do in
Yeah.
class?
Never did it at my school.
There weren't any
Not about
girls.
you,
Oh,
but-
that's right.
Oh,
Lots of boys writing it, though.
Yes.
I love Angie.
he's half Scottish.
Dish. He's in the first 11. Ooh.
You're not denying it, I see.
So what are the boys worst at and the girls best at?
Boys are worst at everything, aren't they?
They're
what it
particularly
was.
bad at one thing, which is IT, and the girls are particularly good.
IT?
Yeah.
What's that?
It. It's a euphemism. Apparently we're not very good at it.
Yeah.
We learn later.
Yes. And the girls are best at art.
Future's female, they say.
We're completely washed up
Yeah.
as men.
And the future's orange, which is a bit strange. So, so the future's Judith Chalmers, I reckon.
And how have they dealt with the problem of dim boys in the past? Did you read about this?
They put them on panel games, didn't they?
Yes, this is the survey showing that girls are outperforming boys in every school subject except PE. So boys may not be able to add up, spell, or tell you anything about history, geography, or the sciences, but at least we can throw a rounders ball without looking like a total divvy. There have also been calls for the government to make sex lessons compulsory. Following a survey of young people's sexual knowledge, one 11-year-old boy said, "Sex is when a man and woman love each other and want to have babies." Yes, well, he'll learn. All of which stuff and nonsense means that that's quite enough of that, and at the end of that round, both teams are sticking rigidly to their guns, and indeed their scores, sharing as they do 6 points. Round 3 this week features a game called Odd One Out.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, I knew you'd enjoy it, that's why we put it in.
Thank you.
One per team, Paul and Warren, the Emperor Claudius, Demosthenes, George VI, and Martin Lewis.
Well, Demosthenes.
Demosthenes.
Who's he? I know I didn't do Demosthenes at school. Kills 99% of all known germs.
He was an orator, a Greek orator.
So he was a public speaker sort of thing.
He was, yeah.
Really?
But he had a problem, because he had a stutter.
Oh, a bit like
And he went
Old
down
King.
to the beach, and he put pebbles in his mouth, and he practiced and practiced till he lost his stutter. And then he became the greatest orator of all time.
But then he
Although-
died because he was addicted to pebbles. If he had a stutter then, the King George, the well-known pub, George VI, he had a stutter, didn't he? And Derek Jacobi had a stutter. How he ever got work as an actor is beyond me. But he was very lucky because he played Claudius, who actually had a stutter which was very much like his own stutter, so nobody noticed. And Martin Lewis reads the news.
About as well as Angus.
So presumably, they've all had stutters, or maybe Martin Lewis once had a stutter, has now been cured, but he's the odd one out.
Is the wrong answer. But you are very close.
They all cured it, except Claudius, who never did.
Is the right answer.
Oh,
Very good.
hey.
I haven't heard a noise like that from a British audience since the curtains used to part at the end of Salem Central.
I think the ooh was largely the fact that I got a question right this series.
Who was, get him.
Who got him ready?
Who knitted you?
In with a wife and 2 kids and all.
It was me writing on Angus's pencil case. Ang.
The answer is that they've...
You've got a G in your name, isn't there? So if his...
Nice to hear again. Whose brother was Demosthenes?
Tarquin.
He was actually Telly Savalas's brother in Kojak.
I did a film with Kojak called Assassination Bureau, and on the first day the director said, "I'm sorry, Warren, you have to go and get a wig because telesurveillance insists on being the only bald head in the movie." And I said, they all know the difference because I'm a better actor than he is. But
Let's see who would have won.
Ian and Hattie, your Fab 14 are Jonathan Aitken, Tony Blair, Marty Ahtisaari, and the Iraqi football team, Marty Ahtisaari.
Oh, of course, Marty.
He's got a very flat face, isn't he?
Is he a Teletubby?
not British, is he? It's very Slav, I would
Finnish.
say. Finnish.
He's Finnish.
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 Bit fattish.
And flattish. Finnish, fattish and flattish.
Finnish Prime Minister.
Is it something about lying? I just say that because Aitken's involved.
Oh, right.
Well, Aitken's committed perjury recently and hasn't been prosecuted yet, which is an absolute disgrace. Can't imagine what the hold-up is. Anyway, that's nothing to do with anything much.
you got slightly
Aitken's a liar. Right, the Iraqi football team.
Yes. That's what it really centres around, which is why we gave
They've
you.
done very well recently. I follow football quite closely, as
Evidently,
you know.
yes.
They beat Finland in the qualifying round of the Formula One Cup.
Right. Are they through to the World Cup?
They are,
The Iraqis are not through to the World Cup.
and everybody else is. Jonathan Aitken through. He told the authorities there were 11 of him. Tony's wonderful, he must be through.
Isn't this about the team that they lost some match or they didn't play very well and they were held back and tortured after the game?
Yep.
And Jonathan Aitken once asked to be tied up, didn't he?
Same sort of area?
That bloke there, the Finnish, fattish, flattish bloke. Well, God knows what's been done to him over there. You look at him, your heart bleeds, isn't it? And
he's had a new haircut.
Tony Blair's just had a little touch of it just there. Look.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so he's the odd one out.
No, that's not the right answer, but you're in the right area, so you get 1 point, I would say. The answer is that they've all been flogged at some point in their lifetime, but only Jonathan Aitken enjoys dishing it out as well. Any idea who Marty Ahtisaari was flogged by? Was in the news recently.
Yeltsin.
And Blair was flogged at school. In a new biography about Aitken, his cleaning lady in the 70s described his bedroom. He used to leave his whips, ropes and belts all over the floor, as well as a copy of Spanking Monthly. Several canes, a riding crop, a thing with a black leather handle and thongs hanging from it, and a thing which looked like a loo brush. Still, what a man does in the privacy of his own bedroom, that gives us all a good laugh. After several poor performances, the Iraqi World Cup squad were flogged on the soles of their feet. Most of them rolled around moaning in agony until the stretcher arrived, when they immediately leapt up and carried on. Which ritual abuse leaves its mark on the end of this round, and the painful truth is that Ian and Hattie are being roundly beaten, trailing as they are 10-8. And so to our final missing words round, a bevy of half-cut headlines, including several or fewer from this week's guest publication, the irreplaceable Coil Winding International. So away we go with fattest wrestler in sumo what?
Has a great big arse. Fattest wrestler in sumo has a great big arse. Exclusive. Every time he bends over, there's an eclipse of Tokyo. He's got a great big arse, the fattest wrestler in sumo.
Yes, I'm getting the idea, but it's not the answer.
Not.
Buckles under the strain is in
You know why? He's got a great big arse.
Next, what sold to Turkey?
Christmas escape kit.
Life insurance.
New coil winding machine with new super thin coil wire. sold to
Loads of
Turkey.
old rope.
You're in the right area, I'll give you one. Component welding system is in fact.
You would have got there.
You did metalwork, so you should know what this means, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does
I
it
should
mean?
know, but I got ungraded.
Next, mutant rats on what?
Higher purchase.
Harley Davidsons?
Yeah.
20 fags a
Richard and
day.
Judy.
Rampage.
I'll give you one for Rampage. The Prowl, and it's in Chile.
Rampage.
Rampage, the
Not
prowl.
just, it's everywhere.
On the Rampage.
Walking along on the prowl. It's hardly on the rampage, is it?
On the Rampage.
Every time Paul opens his mouth, you say, yes, I'll give you one, yes, I'll give you one, yes, give you one.
Sorry, what was your
Public
guess,
school,
Ian? What was your closest guess?
Good evening.
Newton Rats on Richard and Judy, I think it was.
Pretty near.
I think Rampage is closer than Richard and Judy, I'm sorry. I hate to be a stickler here, but next, Secret What Unmasked?
Pork pie. I can't help it that you're throwing away a special element of the show. Just having it come up like that.
Yes.
It's more a reflex round, isn't it? Who's the quickest to read out loud? Without getting words wrong. Not that it's
what we
easy
do.
to read out loud about getting words wrong, as you've proved for the last.
Tricky one. Yes, any idea what the story was?
Does it matter?
Hundreds of middle-aged men are buying pork pies and not owning up, apparently.
Are they rabbis?
And finally, blokes are rubbish at what?
Ovulating.
Chatting up.
Yes, it's not quite how it puts it. Pulling birds.
Oh,
but
I read
yes,
the
this is
posh version.
yeah. Reading the Independent, obviously. This is according to a survey of chat-up lines, which included, I collect coins and couldn't help noticing you've got a couple of nice threepenny bits. And I may not be Fred Flintstone, but I can make your bed rock. Which faultless inaccuracy signals the end of tonight's blunder, and the situation is that this week's non-tip players are Ian and Hattie with 11, whilst this week's Embassy number ones are Paul and Warren with 13. So to our winners, Humphrey the Cat. To our losers, the job of fishing him out of the bottom of the canal. But before we go, the unbridled euphoria created by our caption competition, Ian and Hattie. This was yours.
Ascot halitosis killer caught.
Is the woman on the left, the policewoman on the left, saying, don't mind me, I'm sucking the inside of a tortoise?
Thank you, Paul and Warren.
Is the bloke right behind him with that long black thing in his hand? He said, well, I've got to carry this around everywhere I go. He's trying to get it up that bloke's trousers. Because he's the one creating the smell. Get out of here, you stinky old man.
On which plausible note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Hattie Hayridge, Paul Merton and Warren Mitchell. And I leave you with news that at the opening of the new Tory Central office in Docklands, party chiefs deny it's been built using donations from the Far East. There's controversy as Guns and Ammo magazine introduced their new page 3 girl. And in Westminster, Tony Blair refutes allegations that he's becoming desperate in his attempts to appease Gerry Adams. Good night.
Julian Clary will be passing judgment in a